1-2 punch from TK, okay? Kawakami, how he would handle the Farhan and Gabe decisions.
If I'm them, I say, Farhan, what can we do better at manager and give us another plan for getting us some better players? I want to hear you. I would not do it the other way. I would not say, Gabe Kapler, you're the first person we retain, and what's the plan from here? I would do it the other way. And if Farhan Zaidi gives me a plan that involves Gabe Kapler remaining as manager, but also all these other things are answered, maybe you continue down that path. I just don't think you can say it right now that that's the path. I can't believe that's what ownership can say. You know what? Let's get 24,000 every game at Oracle Park. Maybe it's 16,000 later in the season when all hope is lost. I just can't see that being the right thing to say right now. Again, I'll just go back, and again, I just don't think it's smart for a CEO to declare that two guys in their ending their fourth and fifth years are exactly what everyone wants to see next year. I need different answers than they've been given. I think they're capable of giving them, but I don't think they've given them yet.
Okay, this is a very fair point. He's not looking at it from a standpoint of even like, I think they should be fired or anything like that. He's more pulling apart this quote-unquote vote of confidence that Greg Johnson supposedly gave Farhan and Gabe, and he's saying that, A, I didn't read it that way, but B, that doesn't even functionally make sense. Like, why would a CEO in this situation, why would somebody who's in charge of an organization that has hit a 25-year low, let's call this what it is, in terms of attention, in terms of interest, in terms of output, and in terms of crowd. This is a 25-year low that they've hit right now. And that CEO is going to come out earlier than needed and be like, oh, yeah, run it back, baby. It's kind of true. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No, and a vote of confidence means nothing without what Jed York did to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. That is a vote of confidence. When you say these guys aren't up for extensions and they're getting extensions, here you go, everybody. Nobody saw this coming, but they got extensions. That's a vote of confidence. And when you have a team playing as poorly as the Giants have since the All-Star break, and they've been dreadful, I think they are 29-39 in the second half. After being, 49-41 for the first 90, then you go into the break and you come out and you immediately drop, I think, like 6 in a row coming out of the All-Star break on that road trip. It was the 11-game trip that did not go well. You lost 7 consecutive series and you never recovered. So there's no sense in giving Farhan or Gabe a vote of confidence. Either you come out and you definitively say they're back next year, or you give them extensions, or you don't say anything.
Coming up in about an hour and a half, San Francisco Giants take on the San Diego Padres. Batting fifth is designated hitter Joc Pederson. Keep that in mind as you listen to this from Tim Kawakami. And I asked him, what do you think Webb meant by those comments? Like, who was he pointing at specifically? Take a listen to the answer. Come for the Kawakami opinion and stay for the Joc Pederson stray.
I think it's just not do the exact same thing that they've been doing. I think that was his point. I don't think he was saying fire the manager, fire the general manager. I just don't think that's Logan's style. But I just think he wanted to make sure that this is not what they're going to live with. This is not tolerated in his mind, or shouldn't be tolerated in the clubhouse. I think there might be a few players that several of the top guys wouldn't mind moving on from, but that's not up to them. I just think it needs to be different means do something, not little. Let's again, it's the same thing I think I'm saying. Let's see a plan. Let's see we're not giving 400 plate appearances to a fat platoon designated hitter. Let's see a plan where a superstar would want to join this. Let's see a plan for, not as many, really mediocre platoons where it's not just 3 openers and 2 starters.
I'm sorry, I knew it was coming and it's still. Let's not give 400 plate appearances to a fat platoon designated hitter.
Wow. I mean, it's okay to do that if that FPDH, fat platoon designated hitter, if he's got 30 home runs, then weigh whatever you want to weigh. Pete Alonso is not necessarily the most slender cat on the field, but the guy hits bombs, and he hit another one today in their rout of the Miami Marlins. So that was a rat-a-tat-tat from Tim Kawakami. He doesn't normally do that.
Yeah.
He'll block you on Twitter, but he doesn't normally drop F-bombs on DHs.
No. Not quite an F-bomb, but
fat is an F word.
Well, right. And I'm not here to body shame anyone, but it caught me by surprise.
Yeah.
He's kind of weaving along, He's like, well, I don't think he's about firing the manager. It's not what he meant. I think there's a few players he'd like to move on from, and so let's just do something different. Like, let's not give 400 plate appearances to a fat platoon. It's like, whoa, damn. I will say this, this is just, kind of off the map. Did anybody realize that Joc Pederson was frustrating his teammates this much? And I don't want to hear, oh, Mark, you're making too big a deal out of this. When twice in 3 days, two of the most dialed-in media members in this entire city directly go at a guy. Andy Baggerly, Joc Pederson's over here, cares more about cards than prep for a game. And then Kawakami, 48 hours later, let's not give a bunch of at-bats to the fat platoon DH. Yo, that's not coming from nowhere.
Right.
That means off the record, people are like, this Joc jerk is XYZ. That's the only way I can translate that.
For sure. And it's more than just a guy is not having a good year. It's somebody who is not devoting 100% to his craft and not producing at the plate and maybe infecting others in the clubhouse in similar ways because, Joc Pederson, when things are great and the team is winning, he's jovial and everybody loves him and all the rest of it. And then you see him out in the outfield falling down when he's trying to track down a routine fly ball to left. And you see a guy who's not producing the power numbers that he should, and he's the highest paid player on the team. If you're in that spot and you're not giving 110% to try to make things better, you're going to be the target of scorn. And this for a team who 37 times this year, Mark, has scored 1 run or fewer. And last night was another example.
Another one.
They've scored 12 runs in their last 7 ball games. 12 runs in 7 games.
Well, let's take it to just this week. You come home. We know they can't play on the road. They haven't been able to play on the road all year long. There's only one team in this town in 2023 that's been able to play on the road. They call themselves the 49ers. More on them in just a second because we promised something earlier that I definitely want to get to with them. But just take the last 48 hours, okay? Even though anybody with a brain knew that the Giants were not going to make the playoffs by the time we got to Monday, they come home, and in theory, you do still have a pulse, okay? And even if you don't, you still have the motivation of, let's finish with a winning record. Let's, not finish in 4th place. Whatever it is that gets you going this week. And the Giants have now played in this ballpark for 18 innings against the Padres, and they have a total of 1 run-scoring hit. 1. They scored 2 runs. It came on 1 swing of the bat. It was an oppo ground ball off the bat of Michael Conforto. It scored 2 runs, and that was enough for Logan Webb to get a complete game victory, and they came out the next night and got shut out. So it's like an epidemic right now because we listen to Flem come on with the morning roast all the time and all year long, or at least once it got bad, he's just been scratching his head. There's no way, even if you're like, oh, the lineup's not good enough, there's no way that this many major league hitters collectively go into a 2.5-month slump all at once. But they did. They did. Everybody not named Wilmer has essentially been disappointing in the last 2 months and unable to hit it big time.
And especially on the road. And I think the low point for me was when you went to Colorado and you lost 3 of 4 against a team that has been terrible all year, and it's a hitter park, and the only game you really broke out, you had to hold on for dear life after leading 9-0 to win a game 11-10.
Yep.
And I'm going back in time right now and trying to find the last road series that they won. And I'm into August, and that's a no. Atlanta was a no.
Jeez.
At the Angels, you dropped 2 of 3. You got swept by the A's. You lost all 3 to Washington. You split 4 against Cincinnati. That's not a win. You got to go back to July. You swept Pittsburgh on the road. So you come out of the break, Mark, and you sweep Pittsburgh on the road.
You won 5 in a row.
Right.
Yeah, you won 5 in a row.
But a couple of those were, you won 7 in a row because you won the last 2 before the break.
I'm just saying, you come out of the break and win the first 5.
You're humming.
You come out of the break, you win your first 5. They were 54 and 41.
Correct.
Okay?
And you drop 2 in the Natty, 3 in Washington, the oddball makeup in Detroit, and even at that, okay, you're coming home. We knew that this 11 games in 11 days was going to be rugged. You got the A's. Let's lick our chops with the A's, and you got a couple there. And then you win 2 of 3 against Boston. It's like, okay, the road trip, forget that. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Since then, at 58 and 48, you've been downright dreadful.
Well, I actually remember that game. Cincinnati, remember, they won a game in extra innings, and then they won that 11-10 game, which was one of those games where you could sort of feel it if you were watching the game. Like, just Reds were hitting home runs everywhere. But it felt like one of those games. It's like, gosh, every time, like the Reds went up 4-1 early in the game. And I'm like, oh, then the Giants came right back and tied it. It was this back-forth game. And I'm like, I feel like they do this once a year in Cincinnati, and they're probably going to win. And they did. They win the game 11-10. Okay? 54 and 41. 5 in a row to start the second half. And you're thinking, it is time to boogie, because they had 2 more in Cincinnati. And then they were going to Washington. You're like, man. And then they were going to come home for the A's. Like, they're going to win probably another 5 or 6 out of these next 8. And it is go time. The Giants went 24 and 39 from that moment forward.
Jeez.
24 and 39. Just brutal.
Brutal. And when you beat Cincinnati in that game you were referencing, you stuck a game and a half back of the Dodgers. A game and a half back. And from there, you sit now 19 and a half back. You're tied with San Diego. Third place is on the line tonight at Oracle Park to go from where you were threatening the Dodgers. And, maybe you ultimately wouldn't have stuck with LA because they're a very, very good team. But to fall as badly as you have, and again, we go back to that same question of where do you lay more blame. This is the same team, basically, that Gabe Kapler had when they were 54 and 41. Is there anything that's appreciably different from then to now in terms of roster? Now, you've had some Mecklers up, and you've had Fitzgerald's up, and you've had...
Not really.
So
not really.
That's where I think more of the blame would lie at the feet of Kapler, because he had this thing working back then.
Yeah.
In July 18th, on that Tuesday where you beat Cincinnati 11-10.
But do you give him credit for he had it working then?
Right.
With this roster. And you're like, well, he can't do that, but he did. And then he didn't. Yeah, look, he gets credit for all of it, blame for all of it. The bottom line in the end is where they sit now, not good enough. Everybody knows that. They know that. He has said that.